Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and hey, you can do this. And if that's not enough, you can do this. Because this is Airwindows PointyDeluxe. So you might be able to hear what this one's about. What I can do is strip out all that other stuff that I had in there. I did my usual wanting to do a really complicated groove going on, and I can strip it out so that it's just the pair of guitars like this. And of course, PointyDeluxe means that this is literally all DI. All the guitars and things, and in fact also the drums, because they're electronic this time around, are only DIs. So you can do this. Or the full band. That's also DI. So in order to investigate this a little more closely, you might see that these look a little daunting. I'm showing two of them on the screen. Maybe I want to just only show one, or maybe I want to leave that for future reference. Don't mind me, my recording failed the first time around, so I'm just sort of charging through, and it took extra time today because I had to record this morning before doing anything with it. Here we go. If I solo this one, and then pan it to center, we've got the DI, which is an extended range guitar, and then we also have the plugin. And you can see that it's labeled with Slipperman's patented labeling. Slipperman was Tim Gillies, who passed away a few years ago. He did a thing called Slipperman's Recording Distorted Guitars from Hell. And these labels are from his recommendations on checking out different kinds of tone quality. So what we're going to do, I don't think I can actually do this here. Don't mind me. There's a way that you can make Reaper reset all of these. I don't have that right now because my window is not big enough, because I made the window tiny in order to be able to show it on the screen. So you got Hell, Fizz, Pick, Satan, Danger, Critical, H-Meet, L-Meet, Swing, and Rarely. So that's a lot, but each of those has its own tonal characteristic that add up to a giant, huge monster noise. So in order to show you what each of those things does, which I'm going to try to do, I'm going to have to go through and manually turn them all off. If the window was bigger, I'd be able to do this a little more conveniently, but you can't have everything. However, in Reaper, I can double-click on them, and they will go to 0. Those look only like EQs, but you'll find when I've set it to neutral, it's not really very distorted anymore. There's a little bit of overdrive compared to bypassing it, but there's not much going on. Here's how I'm going to show you what each of these tone bands do. Because here's the thing, this is not an easy plugin to use. Fair warning, I will have an interesting time getting interesting tones. I feel like this is a way of getting tones other people don't necessarily have. This is being used without cabinet sims or IRs or anything. It is just raw sound from the DI passed straight through. It doesn't even have the filtering that PointyGuitar has. that's a cab simulator type thing. So how would you go about using something like that? Let's loop a section of it so that we can keep it going. And let's start changing things. Hell is the very top band. As Slipperman says, this is the road to hell. Even if you have a high gain amp sound, which is what these are normally designed to deal with, you don't want to use that EQ band. So you might very well cut it back. If you cut it all the way back, you're muting the sound. There's a reason for this. If you set this too weirdly, it will freak the heck out. Fizz is not typically what you want in heavy guitars. There's a kind of bright, tinny sound to it. So you might actually be cutting that in a high gain sound. Pick and Satan are more likely what you would want. Oh, and we were not actually looping it. But now we are. So this is probably where you get your gain from. What you should know is that the high gain aspect of this tracks the loudest boost you've got. So if you're adjusting the fine points of gain, go to the loudest boost you've got and pull it back a little bit. So this is pick attack. By the same token, Satan is a little bit lower. The reason Slipperman calls this Satan is because it's tricky to work with. People will often cut it in high gain metal applications, but you can't take it all away without hurting the sound. See, it's got a really raunchy edge to it. Here's a good place to demonstrate something having to do with these bands. If you've got one band cut, and if you've got a band boosted, and you cut the band below, you are boosting the band above too. Because these are weird little filters making this all happen. They're the angle EQ filters. And things can get weird, as you can hear. Danger is another heavy metal mid-range that people will often cut to get a bigger, beefier, heavier sound. As you can see right next to it in the one that I was using on the track, I've got Danger boosted a tiny bit in that one, but not all that much. It's a crunching mid-range sound. And as you cut this one, we're now getting Satan coming through. Critical is more mid-range, and this is where Slipperman said, this is critical to your tone. You're typically not boosting it. In fact, for the version that I've got right next to this, I've got it cut down to 0.289. You probably cut this in a heavy metal tone, but it's very important. It's tricky to use. You have to pay attention to that rather than just making it all go away. H-meat is the top of the beef in your guitar. This is where the weight and punch of your chugs and things come in. Note, however, that the gain's probably going to come from pick. It's definitely tricky to set. L-meat is even lower than that. It is beefiness and heaviness. In the example next to this, H-meat is fairly high and L-meat is slightly cut, and swing is also slightly cut. Swing is sort of the rumble of the cabinet, the girth and size of the guitar. Normally with a real one, this is going to be cabinet rumble and additional noise, but in this case, it's a DI. So all that we're getting out of this is what the DI has, and it's just being pumped through the mix. No speaker. Not even the speaker simulator like you have in PointyGuitar. And then lastly, rarely, this is your very lowest band. Slipperman says, never say never, just say rarely. As you can see in the one that I dialed in, I've got it cut even more. Typically it works better when you have the band slightly offset. Again, because if you've got something, like here's critical, and then you cut the one immediately below, you end up boosting the one above, like this. And then as you get closer to cutoff completely, what ends up happening is it goes completely crazy. So this is also a recipe for horrifying broken crazy tones. The reason this is behaving so badly is because I have some of them cut as far as they are. So here's how you work with this crazy thing. Basically, the idea is find something that is going to be the center of your sound. For instance, for the other one, we've got mostly pick in there, and we've cut a bunch of other ones. We don't have any really good way of completely taking away things like hell and fizz, because this is PointyDeluxe, not PointyGuitar. But we can do things like make a sound out of Satan, and then add some lows. And this produces a sound that will sit in a mix, and you can continue adding gain. And we can cut some of the fizz. Adding a little bit of hell makes it go kind of crazy. So now we have a high gain, but voiced lower. And we can have as much gain as we want. Because cutting the band below tends to make the band above go insane. This is why in PointyGuitar you've actually got all of these bands working, but they are made to crossfade between each other. You've got control over like a high one, and then the next one below is halfway between that and the next one you get. One of them is going to be pick, so you're going to have hell, pick, danger, high meat, and swing, and then the other controls. And so the way that works is if you're going to do it like it was literally PointyGuitar, you'd be reproducing something like this. These go about halfway. Or if this was being cut, and then if this was being boosted, in order to get it to work like PointyGuitar, you have to split the difference between the settings that you get. But this is PointyDeluxe. It doesn't even have separate controls for things like gating or distortion or output level or any of that. With this one, you get to set the individual controls to whatever you want. So say we use pick to get a really high gain thing. Let's cutscene. We'll cut fizz, because the thing is, this does not have a cabinet simulation. So what you're pushing with fizz and hell is coming right through as if there was a tweeter on your speaker cabinet. So you're likely to want to dial those down. And then we can do strange things with the lows. Like for instance, let's make one that sort of thunders and shakes in low frequencies. Okay, that's already too much. We can get it acting real weird. There's your Frank Zappa solo tone there. If we return it back to 0, it starts acting normal again. So let's see. And so there we have a sort of grindy, chuggy, super low frequency flinging one, which again, there is no bass cab, there is no cabinet to it, unless you put one. And so this is how you go about overdriving one of those too. So you can hear gnarly things get to happen. PointyDeluxe. Now, I didn't have much time because I'm working so much on these reverbs and things. You're hearing, at least some of the time, not only K Cathedral 4, but also the upcoming K Guitar Hall 2. which is what's on those guitars. That has its own controls. I'll be demonstrating that in time. Thing is, PointyDeluxe is such a strange beast that I can't really demonstrate it very effectively. That's the best I can do to show you what this does. And you don't necessarily have to resize the window to be as tiny as that. I only do that so that I can make a video of it and it fits on my screen. But even if you use it at a normal size, it's probably still going to be a screaming, howling monster. So this might be more along your lines for 9-inch nails shenanigans or whatever. But this is for you because the idea is open source plugins for everybody to have. So even if you can't afford a giant guitar amp or whatever, if you've got a Pointy guitar and you can plug it into the computer, you can use this to do these weird things with it. And it might not be up your alley, but it does have extremely pungent, gnarly tones that are not necessarily like anybody else's tones. And if it so happens that you can get your sound out of it, hey, win-win. I'm going to get back to the work that I need to do. All of this is supported by my Patreon. I might as well just mention. That's how I keep being able to do all of this rather than having to stop. Now, you might well not want me to do this particular one, but too late, sorry. PointyDeluxe is out there, and people may well end up using it to create horrifying, horrifying tones on all manner of things. Like you can run a drum machine or synthesizer into it just as easily. And you probably should. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.